निरञ्जनं नित्यम् अनन्तरूपं भक्तानुकम्पाधृतविग्रहं वै ईशावतारं परमेशमीड्यं तं रामकृष्णं शिरसा नमामः. Namaste and welcome to our Sunday morning session on guided meditation. We missed our Sunday classes over the last couple of weekends because we had the Easter break, and the week before that we had the celebration of the birthday of Sri Ramakrishna. But I hope you have been meditating, and we will today continue from where we had left. We were discussing this profound subject of the mantra Om or the Pranava. It's a sacred syllable, and it is exalted in the Upanishads, in the Gita, in all our scriptures, as the sound form of the Supreme Being, Shabda Brahman. So when the Supreme Consciousness, desiring to manifest or express itself in these various worlds and all living beings, executes that through sending out its energy through this process which unfolds as the pranava, which at the gross physical level we hear through our ears as the sound Om at a very, very gross level. It has got multiple dimensions of increasing degrees of subtlety, and ultimately it connects to that supreme consciousness itself. So it's a chain, a link, where we have the gross end at our hand, which we can hear. But if we can trace it back, go deeper and deeper, we find that ultimately that chain links us to that supreme consciousness, to the foundation out of which we also have come. So when the sages dive deep into themselves, into their own minds, the physical world disappeared from them. In its place, those things which are physical, material things were replaced by ideas, which we call forms, that we say. And when they went further, when the mind became even finer, then even those disappeared and they all merged. They kept on integrating and becoming closer and closer to that oneness. And ultimately, they heard at the deeper level this sound, eternal sound, constantly reverberating throughout the whole world as that Om. And ultimately, that sound itself merged into that soundless or the nameless being. But when the mind came down, they again heard that sound. They call it the nada. We have been discussing about how those various experiences they have been trying to explain to us. And then it becomes like the bindu, it becomes a light. So light is a form of energy. It becomes a grosser form of energy like sound, which is another vibration of the air that we hear. So that is what we experience. And they've also experienced that every living form that is there, in every living form, this particular sound, Om, is constantly reverberating without any prompting. It's any sound that we make in this physical world requires some stimulus. Either I speak something, you strike something, and it will remain there for a while, and it will fade away until you repeat it again. But this particular sound, Om, rises from the navel upwards in every living being. But it's a very subtle sound, not something that we can hear with our gross ears. It can be heard by yogis. Yogis are people who have purified the mind and made it very fine. And when that fine mind is tuned to that subtle sound, they can feel and hear that energy constantly rising. Today, we are going to talk about that particular power of that Om, that energy. Normally, as spiritual aspirants, people will aspire to do spiritual disciplines for the goal of self-realization, God realization, discovering of freedom, mukti, whatever they want to call it. But the majority of mankind is too busy with this world. We want to be healthy and happy and have a good, strong body to be able to manage our duties and responsibilities and enjoy the world also. And also we are seeking for knowledge. So if our minds are brighter and purer, then we can understand things faster, learn things better. and make fewer mistakes, but dealing with this world at the end of the day. Can we have a better instrument? Can we make this body a healthier body, a greater wellness in there, and a mind, a better mind? The goal can still be enjoying this world. Would chanting the mantra Om help one in this particular, for this particular goal also? Of course, yes, because we are only one being. Where we direct that energy, whether to the physical world or the spiritual world, is our choice. But we are one being, and the purer our body is, the purer our mind is, the better we have a better instrument to access that energy within us. So we will today discuss, and the topic is the healing power and the illuminating power of the Om. Healing means restoring that balance. Disease is when we lose that balance of the body. Some organ or some part becomes defective, the flow of the energy is not right, and that becomes what we call diseased, out of ease. And it's not functioning, so then the rest of the mind and body is trying to make up for that, and the machine sort of goes out of order, so to say. Restoring that health would be bringing that particular organ or that part in harmony with the rest of the organism. But to do that, you require some energy. Okay, so if you don't eat, don't get sufficient energy through the food, the energy level of the body goes down, and then the organs begin to suffer and you become weak and diseased, so to say. If you eat well, then you're getting the food from the energy from the food. But is there another internal source of energy which we can connect to, which can recharge us not from externally but from internally? Because of course we've got multiple dimensions of our being. The physical is only the gross part of it. Behind is the mind. If the mind is healthy and strong, then you find the body is also nice. But the body can be perfectly healthy and the mind can be out of order, and you've got worry, anxiety, tension, depression, and all those things. Terrible state to be in. Physically very good, mentally not so good. There could be even a deeper level of problem, neurosis, so to say, where the energy which is coming from the intelligence, the mind is good, but your discriminating power and all that control over the mind is not there. So the mind is taking you wherever it wants, and that's not a very good type of a situation to be. We are not in control or masters of our own self. But ultimately, what is that finest, best control and source? And if we can energize ourselves from that level, then all these levels of our being get nourished. And that would be the very nice way to do. Then we are less dependent on outside things. We are control of ourselves, and we can access an inexhaustible source of energy, knowledge, inner joy, and purity. Spiritual life is something to do with that, making that inner connection. So the saints and sages who explored the inner dimensions of our being, beyond the mind, beyond the intellect, beyond the ego, came face to face this wonderful entity which they call the supreme being behind the universe, or the Atman behind the individual. And they claim that this entity is far superior to this human or the body and the mind level. And that is the source through which all that energy comes. And its nature is that it's eternal, it is never born, it never dies, unlike the body and mind. It is absolutely pure, it cannot be corrupted by in any way, it can never go diseased. It's absolutely free, there's no bondage or limitation in there. It is the source of all strength, whatever we call physical strength, mental strength, emotional strength, intellectual strength, moral strength. All of them ultimately come out of the spiritual source, and it's absolutely free. That is our divine birthright. We are all the time there. But somehow we have forgotten that. And we have drifted from that awareness of ourself as the Atman into this prison house of this body, limited by the senses, and limited by our physical actions, this limited by the body, by the way, limited by the mind and its capacity to understand and rationalize and do things, limited by our intelligence to discriminate and make decisions. And the ego, of course, tiny little thing somehow identified this with this one little body. How can we transcend this, all these limitations, and reassert or re-experience our infinite nature? That pursuit would be called a spiritual, a pursuit for a spiritual life. But This body has to be kept strong. It's a raft, a boat that will carry across from this shore of the ocean to the other side. This mind also has to be nice and strong, because if the mind is all over the place, well, you might have nice ambitions of doing spiritual practices, but the mind is all over the place or not very healthy, then it's not very good. So we have to take care of this body and the mind, not for the sake of keeping them healthy and enjoying out of them only, but using, knowing them that they are going to be our instruments to go to the other side. For that reason, we want a healthy body, so that when you sit down and engage yourself in spiritual disciplines, then you can sit down quietly, calmly for a long time. You're not paining here and there. There's no diabetes, rheumatism, and aching all over the place. Or the mind is calm and serene. There are not anxieties and worries and tension and all those undesirable states. So it's calm, and then we can direct this mind away from the external world to the internal world and fine tune it, penetrate deeper and deeper through the various layers of our being and come face to face with what we really are. That would be the ultimate goal, and that will be the realization that will set us free totally. So, we were discussing through a series of videos some slides which showed how this Atman or the powers of the Om are in our body, in our being. So we'll do a quick revision and then try to go a little further. The idea is to have some understanding of it, a conceptual understanding of it, but you have to keep always in mind that no matter how much you understand as a concept, it's not going to make you spiritual. It's not going to be make you do the healing part of it. The healing part will come from the experience of it, and that means we have to do the spiritual exercises to awaken that power. You can sit outside the swimming pool and learn all about the different types of strokes, breaststrokes, and this and that, but unless you get into the water and practice it, you'll never enjoy the fun and joy of swimming. So the idea is scriptures will give us the guidance, the compass and the map, but then we have to start traveling the journey. You don't have to know everything about the journey in every detail. Okay, the rest will come to you, but get a rough idea, and the important thing is start going, moving forward, and everything will come. You learn much more from experience than through conceptualization, intellectual. So let us see. We talked about, and we are referring to the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, we talk about the significance of this mantra Om. It is said that the supreme being at the highest level that we can conceptualize, the absolute is beyond name and form. Our highest reading of that absolute would be our conception of God. That being who is the creator, who is the preserver, and who absorbs the world into and all its beings into himself, who is the controller behind the whole cosmos and universe. We call him by the name Ishvara. His name is Om. That's the best indicator. Like somebody has got a name, some being is there, then immediately we give him a name. And when you call that name, that being or person knows that he is being addressed, and he will respond like, I'll call you by your name. You will know out of thousands of people, you are the one being called. So likewise, the name Om is the name of this, the word Om is the name of the supreme being. When we utter that, it connects us to that source. Okay, understanding that. So that is, one can achieve this supreme, what you call, concentration of mind through the devotion to Ishvara. And his name is, what is the name of Ishvara? Tasya Vachaka Pranava Om. So that's why you'll see in all our mantras, the Shabda Brahman. Brahman is the supreme being. Shabda means sound. The sound form of the supreme being is Om. In all our mantras, you'll find start with Om. Then they will find another mantra will be given by a spiritual teacher when you get initiated. That's called the Bija mantra, the seed mantra. And that is the subtle part or the name of the particular aspect of the divine. The divine is nameless and formless, but it can take so many names and forms and incarnations of God. So when we approach him through one particular channel, through one particular form, that particular form will have its own subtle counterpart, and that's called the Bija mantra. like Om Gam Ganeshaya Namah. So Om is the Shabda Brahman, Supreme. Gam is the Bij mantra. Ganesha is the deity. Nama means I bow down to that Supreme Being. Ganesha, whose physical form I can see in the form of a picture or a statue. Okay, but there's a subtle part behind that physical form, which is revealed when the devotee merges or goes into practices devotion in his subtle mind, and the sound that will reciprocate at that level would be the Bij mantra of the deity called Gam. Okay, so normally we don't hear that. But the sages, when they go into that higher state of mind and have the vision of the God, the form, and they hear the corresponding name also, they bring that down and say, hey, look, while you're seeing the physical form in this image and picture, there's a subtle part of it, and they give that to us. And that Bij mantra again connects to the supreme higher form, which is Om. So you get a chain. Om Gam Ganeshaya Namah. Om is the highest one, then it comes to the middle level, and then it comes to the physical level where we can actually see a form of God and hear the word Ganesha. And we use that particular chain of energy. There's an energy that flows through that, depending on the chosen ideal that is identified for us by our spiritual teacher. So all of us have a divine aspect that sort of resonates with some divine being. And a spiritual teacher who can have that insight can say, okay, this is best for you to approach the divine through the form of Shiva, because somehow your constitution is resonating with the divine form of the Shiva one behind it. Or you should approach the divine in the form of the divine mother, Kali or Durga, or some particular aspect of manifestation as an incarnation like Rama or Krishna or Ramakrishna. So the teacher will set that for you. That becomes your chosen ideal. There are many doors to the house, but that particular door through which you'll enter is your chosen ideal, and the mantra is the particular key that's given to you. You go, turn it, and you enter. So the divine is the doorway, the channel through which we enter into the supreme state of and commune and realize our spiritual nature. So the Pranava mantra is very, very profound, because that is the ultimate door. All the doors will sort of merge into that, and then you go through that into the inner sanctum sanctorum, so to say. So tasya vachaka pranava. And the method is tad japa tadarat bhavanam. Repeat the mantra with great concentration and devotion, and contemplate on the meaning, or contemplate on the form, or contemplate rather on the energy of the mantra. See, the bhavana word in Sanskrit doesn't mean try to understand it. Okay, that will be an intellectual process, and we'll form some concepts and ideas, and you think, I have understood it. Bhavana is not something like that. Bhavana is about feeling that energy that is represented by that idea. So when somebody expresses something, there is some emotion or higher energy, like a mother loves the child. So it's a tremendous amount of spiritual emotional energy. But she expresses that energy through some nice, kind, beautiful words when she's talking to the child. The child hears that energy, that particular sounds, but he doesn't remember the sound. Actually, he receives that energy, he feels so good in that loving. So what is being communicated is not the word. The word is the vehicle through which that spiritual energy is being transmitted through that. And we want to feel that energy. So when somebody says something very nice and loving, we don't remember the words he said, but that love and affection we feel, because somehow that resonates within us, isn't it? And that's we said. It so feels so good. Otherwise, we could live on words. By reading a book, you don't feel that loving affection. It comes through a personal touch, direct contact, and all those type of things there. So when we repeat this mantra Om, it's not a dry intellectual thing, mechanically it's going type of thing. You could put a sound system on it, you can be repeating the mantra 24 out of hours in the day. That sound system will not get enlightened, so to say. It's about that feeling that energy. And how do we feel it? We resonate with it, we become one with it. That's when we experience something. We can understand honey by conceptualizing it, but if you put a drop in your tongue, then you experience it. That one experience gives you far much more knowledge and understanding than reading a whole textbook on honey, so to say. So you can read all the scriptures, but an experience and a realization is what we are looking for. So this word bhavana is not like reading the scriptures and Upanishads and doing some intellectual gymnastics and forming some concepts. That is the vehicle through which that energy is supposed to come. Okay, but it is an actual transference of energy from the spiritual teacher when he gives the diksha and the mantra. You'll hear he gives a mantra that you can hear through the sound, but actually there's a direct transmission of a spiritual energy from the teacher into the heart of the guru, and the disciple is then instructed to repeat that mantra. I planted the seed. Okay, now I want to nurture that seed, and by pouring your love and devotion and all that, and out of that seed will sprout a shoot, become a plant, it will grow into a tree, and in that tree you will see the beautiful flowers and fruits that you can enjoy. Likewise, the spiritual teacher plants the seed of a spiritual energy in our hearts, in the heart of the spiritual seeker, and gives the particular instruction. And the instruction is tat japa tadartha bhavanam. Repeat the mantra and contemplate or try to feel that spiritual energy that is embedded or embodied in that mantra. So as you pour your whole mind into it, this mind will begin to resonate with that energy because you're repeating it. And at some point, it will synchronize with it. When it synchronizes with it, then you are on the same page, so to say. Okay, and when the synchronicity happens, that's when the real transfer of the spiritual energy begins to happen. You have to understand this concept. We can use a little bit of physics to understand that. So we want to have that energy. The energy comes from that higher source. Normally, an energy flows from one source to the other, depending on the difference. For example, electricity flows from a higher voltage to lower voltage. How much electricity flows depends on what is called the potential difference, the difference in the voltage of the two. Water flows from a high pressure to low pressure. The flow depends on the difference in the pressures. If they're on the same pressure, then there's no flow. Okay, heat flows from a high temperature to low temperature, depending on the difference in the temperature. If you're at the same temperature, there's no flow. Then you find that in this world, everything is flowing, but the law that dictates the flow is there's a difference between one level and the other. And if we are connected to a higher level, then we become the recipients. If we connect to a lower level, we dissipate that energy. That's why satsanga means always try to connect yourself to a higher source. Then you will be a recipient. If you take a wrong company, wrong connection, then you'll find that you will dissipate that energy and you will feel de-energized. You've lost something in there. But there is, so we talked about one principle out of physics where the flow of energy is there. When you connect to some source, and the flow depends on the direction of the flow, depends whether it's connected to higher or lower, and the quantity of the flow depends on the difference between the two. There is another type of transference of energy when two things become at the same frequency. That means there's no difference in the, but then the quality of the transference is far superior. Okay, and how do I explain that? Well, if you take two violins, tune them to the same frequency, keep one separate, and you strike on the strings of the first one. Without any physical connection, you find that the second violin begins to vibrate at the same level. How did that energy travel from here to there? Because something, without that energy, that second violin will not vibrate. Okay, but without any touching, any connection, it could be in the next room or something like that. That energy flowed. There is a higher, more efficient form of transference of energy when two things are synchronized on the same page. Okay, and you could be tuned to, a group of people or to some ideology or some teaching or to another person, and you're totally comfortable in their, enjoy their company. There's no jarring and all those things are there. You love it. You're at peace with that. But when that other first way, where the difference is there, then this has struggle and you're trying to adjust and all those type of things you'll see. So there's a wonderful, these principles that we understand from science, of material science, physical science, the same fundamental principles apply at the higher level also. Principles are same. So we can understand the physical science and say, okay, if there are other beings, other dimensions of our energy, Can we resonate with them so that their energy level and my frequency level are at the same point? And then what will happen? Just like the energy flowed between the two violins, with minimum of resistance, almost there's no, the distance is not having any impact. That flow of that energy which was trickling down tidbits because one was above and the other was below, when they're at the same plane, there is that abundance of flow of that energy through. And that energy, when it flows through the whole system, so to say, gives that tremendous amount of boost where you feel yourself totally energized and awakened. The body heals. All these aberrations and discomforts and disorders will move away, shift away. Okay, and you'll find that you'll resonate yourself at your higher frequency, so to say, and you're drawing more and more energy out of it, so to say. So you can see the repetition of the mantra, how scientific and how powerful it can be as a means to our own inner healing and wellness in this COVID times, when we have been really been stressed out and physically, mentally not being able to move out and do our regular things, exercises. People are struggling maybe with basic food, clothing, and shelter type of things. There's anxiety and worry about jobs, and everything is totally a mess. And we are totally helpless. No one can help us. Government can give you some little bit of money. That's all it can give you. The rest, you're to your own devices. And what do you do? So in such a case, is there some method or technique by which I can promote my own wellness, physical wellness? My mental wellness is very important. My emotional wellness is very important. My moral and ethical, and of course, my spiritual wellness. When we are integrated in all dimensions of our being, then we are truly healthy. So to a certain extent, we can get things from outside. Beyond that, we can't. Even if you had money and everything, you find doctors and people, they can't help you. We have to be our own healers, so to say. And the method is also there. The technique is also there. Only we have to learn the art and science, and understand it, and then practice it and experience it in our own life. Then we become free and independent from the outside world and dive deeper into ourselves. So, tasya vachaka pranava, tad japa tadartha bhavanam. When we do this constantly, the scripture says, what happens then? Tata pratyek chetana adhigamo, one realizes one's true nature ultimately. But we go deeper and deeper, step by step. And every step gives you a better idea and conception, experience of what we are. Initially, this is a physical body. That's not very good. Then I realize I'm the mind. I feel that energy, mental energy. Then I realize I'm an intelligence there. Then I'm an ego. And beyond that, I'm a pure consciousness being. Pratyek Chetana Adhigamo means experience of that ultimate Atman consciousness. That is the goal that is promised through this spiritual discipline of repetition of the mantra sadhana. And then the second one is antaraya abhavascha. All the obstacles that are in between, which is preventing me from having that experience, that also simultaneously is removed. So they're not, that is trying to tell the same thing in two ways. You remove the dirt that is there, and what happens? More light comes in. Okay, so this pranava is a cleansing, repetition of the mantra is a cleansing process. Okay, it's like a mirror that has been covered with dust for a long time, and you wipe it, one stroke, second stroke. Every time a layer of dust is removed, more light comes in. So the light of the Atman of consciousness is ever present inside us, but every time we repeat the mantra, it lifts the mind a notch higher. And as we go closer and closer to the source of the heat, we feel its warmth. If you're too far away, it's not having its effect on a cold winter night when you are approaching a fire. So that inner warmth, knowledge is within us. This pranava is the process. Every time you repeat the mantra, and if it repeated with great concentration and devotion, it's like wiping with little bit of force. Otherwise, it's very superficial. You're not having the real cleansing effect. Okay, so concentration means you apply your whole mind thoroughly trying to clean it. And so you pull your concentration, knowing that the being that we are talking to, which is represented by the mantra, is a living conscious being. It's not like a table chair or something like that. It's no, we're not trying to study some moon or the Mars or planet, something like that. It's a living being, pulsating with energy, love, affection, knowledge, and everything is there. And the more we tune into him, that being also responds. Okay, how does it respond? Let's move that energy through. And that's where you feel that goodness. Wow, I feel so nice and calm. How did it happen? Well, you have dived a little deeper into your own self. So, pratyek chetana adhikamo antaraya abhavascha. There's a spiritual goal of self-realization. Pratyek chetana, that means your own Atman nature. Antaraya abhavascha, all the obstructions that are at the physical level, at the mental level, and in between, they're also wiped out. So in one shot, you kill two birds in one stroke, so to say, just by the repetition. It sounds so simple, isn't it? People want some fantastic thing, teach us Swamiji about some esoteric yoga technique or something, then I feel I've got something. But the spiritual truths are always very simple. You don't need to know all the Upanishad and the scriptures in the Vedanta philosophy. They're very simple people who have never gone to universities or schools and no degrees, but they go to a spiritual teacher and say, can you please guide me? What they have is a tremendous simplicity and purity of heart, tremendous faith in the teachings of the teacher. Whatever he says, they take it. They don't try to use their own intellect to understand it and say, I will take it when I understand it thoroughly. I'm convinced. They don't bother about that. And the teacher says, this is the mantra. This is a chosen ideal. All you need to do is repeat this with great devotion and concentration, morning and evening as much as possible. And they have the tremendous simple faith. That's it. I've got it. No more. The oyster has caught a sand grain. It closes itself and says, I'm going to form a pearl of self-realization. Where is that pearl coming from? Not from outside. This oyster itself secretes this liquid or juice which eventually develops into something. So that realization or that knowledge is not going to come from outside some book or teacher. It comes from within, from your Atman. But you need a catalyst in a seed, like a grain of sand, around which you form that. And that's how sadhana is all about. So today, while we're talking about this wonderful topic of healing and illumination, let us see what the scriptures, the teachers are saying. Let's go to this idea when he says removal to the obstacles of yoga. What are those obstacles? And it's very nicely explained here. So have a look there. So there are 9 obstacles or barriers to this self-realization. The first one is vyadhi, sickness, disease. If you are not very healthy, well, the whole your mind is concentrated on the body now. You can't think of something higher. When health is very good, you'll have very little body consciousness, and you'll find that in children, they're not even aware of the body. It's so healthy. Later on, as problems begin to come, this is paining, that is paining, and ultimately in old age, the whole machinery is beginning to demand all our attention. So you can't do very much with that. So this is one of the obstacles, vyadhi. Sthana is the incapacity of the mind. So the mind wants to understand something, grapple something, but it doesn't have that capacity. You see in the child, you try to explain something, he's trying to understand. A teacher is trying to explain something to the child, but the child has not developed that capacity. Physical capacity is like, if I'm trying to lift something up and I'm not very strong, then I don't have the capacity to lift. But as I grow stronger and I do exercises, eventually I will develop that capacity and I lift that up. Likewise, the mind's capacity to understand certain things is a mental capacity that is also exercised by the teacher through various exercises and teachings. And at some point he masters that and he goes promoted to the next level in the school. So likewise, the capacity of the mind to grasp the subtle truths taught by the scriptures is not present in all of us, but that too can be developed. How will that happen? The energy that will be awakened through the repetition of this mantra, Om, will itself provide that strength. Okay, and now you feel strong. You say, I can understand it, no problem. I can lift something up, no problem, because I'm strong. So where does that energy and the capacity come from? That comes from this exercise. We require exercise to develop power, physical exercise to develop physical power, mental exercise for develop mental power, spiritual exercise to develop spiritual power. So as you develop, keep on doing the exercise, keep on going to the gymnasium, the muscles will come out, so to say. Keep on going to the school every day, and you will develop the capacity to understand abstract ideas as you go to high school and university. Keep on doing your spiritual exercises of japa and meditation, and that energy will awaken from within, which will give you that capacity to at least understand what the subtle truths are there, and then it will also give you the capacity to practice those teachings. So So in the beginning, you'll be struggling to keep a little bit of control over the mind. It's going all over the place. But as you keep on practicing abhyasa, then you find it's beginning to come under your control a little bit. Okay. And if you keep on doing it, at some point, you will be the master. It's an exercise and a process, requires a lot of patience and perseverance, but that is the way. So we'll go very quickly, but in the next class, we'll go into this deeper, because that's the problem all of us are facing in one way or the other, isn't it? First is the physical problem, sickness is there. Then sthana is the incapacity of the mind. Then third one is the samshaya, doubt comes from. We understand something and suddenly some foreign idea or different idea comes and then dismantles everything and you're totally confused, do not know what you do. All that, that we are assailed by doubts from various sources. Then pramada is there, delusion is there, can't understand what is right and wrong, what is good. That confusion is there. That it's like everything is very hazy. If there's a dust storm and you can't see things through. So pramada brings that. Alasya, laziness is there. I understand what I want to do, but I'm not feeling in the mood. I don't get up out of the bed in the morning, or try to procrastinate and delay to some of this reason or the other. It happens when that energy level is low mentally and physically, so you don't feel that energized and enthusiastic about it. So that's a problem. Avritti, I understand the reality is within me, but my mind is still going outside running after these things. Okay, because it has been conditioned to do that. So that's a problem. Okay, when you try to concentrate the mind within yourself, it runs outside. That's called avritti. And then Bhranti Darshan, the seventh one is uh, wrong perception. You mistake the Atman, the body for the Atman. You mistake the mind for the Atman. You mistake the ego for the Atman. Okay, so how do we get rid of that? So these are deeper levels, high levels of problems. Then uh, alabdha bhumikatva, non attaining to any degree of concentration. So you try to concentrate, mind stays there for a fickle moment and then disappears. Again, you try, there's a constant struggle. You'll find that in the beginning. You're not attaining to any degree of concentration. And the next one is, if you attain it, you slip out of it. Okay, so you practice, you lift the weight up to some, and then you lose the capacity, you have to come down again. You concentrate the mind for a while, again it comes down. You are not able to maintain that level of concentration for a long period as you would like to wish. So these are the obstacles, right? From the physical level, through the mental level, and at the deeper intellectual level and spiritual level. These are called the antaraya, the obstacles. 9 of them are listed here, and we face them all the time. What's the medicine? Repetition of the mantra. Repetition of the mantra, pranava, or that mantra that's given by the teacher, that awakens that energy, and step by step, all these obstacles are removed, and the inner light of knowledge shines through. It's very simple. It has to be practiced. So let us do a little bit of practice today before we finish our session today. Let us sit upright, keeping the back, neck, and head in a relaxed upright position. Feel your body to be strong and healthy. Focus on your breath. Focus on the inhalation and exhalation. Repeat the mantra Om in a rhythmic way as you inhale, and visualize that you are inhaling pure light, pure energy that enters your whole being, energizing every cell of the body. Every corner of your mind is illumined with this pure energy. In this way, inhale and exhale for a while. Normally, you'd like to do at least say 10 times, but today in this practice session, we'll just do a quick 3 times. Let's pray for the welfare of all beings. May the divine The infinite ocean of consciousness, compassion, knowledge, beauty, purity, strength, out of whom this whole universe and all living beings have come, by whom they are all sustained and nourished, and unto whom all they retain. May the divine who dwells in the heart of every living being inspire us and attract our minds from the external world to the inner light, that inner purity, beauty, peace. May all be happy, may all be joyful, may all seek the divine within themselves. Send out your prayers to your right. See your thoughts going out forever, helping and uplifting all they come across. Send them to your left, in front, behind, above, below, in all directions. Visualize that with you as the center, there is a flood of spiritual energy going out for the welfare of all in the universe. Now withdraw your mind from the external world and focus in the center of your heart. Visualize that your body is strong, pure, and steady. Visualize that interpenetrating and overlapping this physical body is your mental body, made of light, pure light, calm, serene, peaceful. Visualize that beyond the body and the mind is even a third dimension of your being, which is pure intelligence, the causal body, luminous. And beyond that is the infinite ocean of consciousness, limitless, the supreme being from whom we have come, to whom we are connected here and now. In that ocean of consciousness where we are connected, visualize a beautiful lotus, fully bloomed, full of freshness and fragrance. In the center of that lotus, visualize a flame, steady like a lamp kept in a windless place, spreading its radiance in all directions, energizing us from the depths of our being through these three bodies into our physical body, energizing our sense organs and giving us that energy with which we do all our activities. Focus your whole mind on that light. You may replace it with any divine form of your choice or your chosen ideal as taught by your spiritual teacher. And visualize that the light emanating from the divine within you is the light of knowledge that dispels the darkness of ignorance. It's a light of absolute purity that fills you with holiness through and through. It's the light of supreme bliss that fills you with joy. It's a light of supreme peace that fills you with serenity and tranquility. Feel the living presence of the divine, full of compassion, love, and affection, just like a mother to a child, being there all the time, protecting, guiding, nourishing, taking care of us. That is our supreme soul, our higher self. And the name of the divine is Om, or the mantra that's been given by your teacher. Talk to the divine. Pray for spiritual knowledge, devotion, spiritual energy. Focus your whole mind on the divine form. Let that form fill your whole mind, and all other ideas and thoughts just drift out of your mental view. Repeat the mantra with great love and devotion, and keep a watchful eye that if the mind slips away to some other thought, you bring it back to this process of repetition of the mantra and try to feel that energy emanating from the divine within you. With each repetition, feel that light is becoming brighter and brighter, dispelling all darkness and ignorance, filling you with your through and through with a wonderful, calm, luminous light that heals you from within and enlightens you from within. Let's meditate in this way for a while. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Mritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. So after meditating like this for at least half an hour, you offer the results of all your spiritual practices to the divine who dwells in your own heart and pray for spiritual knowledge and devotion and try to maintain an undercurrent of that spiritual thought or japa that you are practicing during your morning meditation throughout the rest of the day. Just like if you love somebody very much, then during the day, so many times the thought of that person comes to your mind without you trying, and you feel very good when you think of that particular person because of the loving affection relation that you have. Likewise, we have to establish a loving relationship with the divine. And every time we think of him, you'll find that there will be an infusion of spiritual energy and joy from within. That is a more permanent source of spiritual joy that compared to what the external world or some person can give to us. Let's try to maintain that. Morning and evening, practice this mantra. Charge yourself early in the morning through some proper deep meditation. During the day, the mind will get polluted with all worldly thoughts and this. In the evening, give it a nice wash again with a dose of mantra, so to say, and try to establish the deeper connection. And you'll find through your own practice, the proof of the cake is in eating it, so to say. As you practice, you'll find that awakening and that connection. And then you know. Then the divine itself will provide all that is necessary. You see, it's a living presence. Whatever you need, ask. And if you're sincere, if you're earnest, you'll find the response comes. That is the law of the universe. Where there's a demand, the supply is there. But we should know where to connect it. If you're connecting it from outside to people and environment, you'll get tidbits and things. You connect it to the higher source within, you'll get as much as you need and more than in abundance. So let us continue our spiritual practices. In next week, we will try to go a little deeper and trying to understand how the mechanism, how does it really work? Because once the conviction comes, then you'll be up and doing more of it. Until then, keep safe. We'll see you later. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.